This is Stacey Lokey-Day. I'm sorry if did I pronounce it correctly? Perfect. Good job, Dorota. So I wanted to ask you, could you introduce yourself to us? So I think you will do it best.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, this is super cool. This is my first time on a Twitch live stream, so I'm a little nervous and this is a new kind of setup for me. But okay, so who I am, I currently work as a security operation analyst at a massive cloud startup. You might have heard of it. It's called Wiz. And so they're kind of an all-in-one security platform that adds visibility into the various cloud platforms. And despite working at this massive startup that's all in cloud, I don't necessarily work in cloud day to day. What I do is I'm there on the internal security team to protect what we call ourselves when we work at Wiz. We're wizards, which I honestly think is pretty cool. And so what I do is make sure everyone can do their job efficiently and effectively and kind of ward off any attacks that we might see, whether it's targeted, whether it's phishing, whether it's just, oops, I clicked on something I shouldn't have. That's kind of my day to day. And one of my favorite aspects of my day to day job is actually threat hunting. And I'm sure we'll probably talk about it more, but that's probably the biggest joy that I get out of. I like to read the latest articles and then see how it applies to our environment. So yeah, that's currently what I do now.
Thank you. That was so. Can I call you a wizard from now on?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yes,
joke.
please.
So my next question, thank you for like answering that. I think you did it perfectly, explain who you are, but can you tell me what makes Stacy smile and like what brings you joy? What do you like to do outside of work? Like what makes you happy? Yes.
Yeah, so I'm kind of a geek. If you can't see from my background, I love anime. I love happily ever afters. I'm definitely a girl's girl. I like pink things. But no, seriously, on a lot of my off days, I usually spend the day watching TV. I'm also a mom. So I have two boys that I take care of. I'm also married. And then I'm also kind of really getting into weightlifting.
Oh,
So yeah, so that's been a lot of fun. Actually, I think it's a really important balance working in a job where you sit all day, having that outlet for like physical activity in the morning, I think is super important and it kind of helps me stay balanced. So I think kind of staying fluctuating in between, working out, getting my anime dump in, studying, doing the things that I love, being on social media, kind of all help me stay balanced and stay healthy and happy and kind of sane.
yeah, I do agree with that. It's important, and I do. Yeah, I cycle a lot, so and yeah, I'm now in between jobs, so I did cycle more to clear my head because there were like
Right? Yeah.
more more to clear from my head because stress and yeah, and interviews are not my best favorite thing in the world, but yeah, to move along. What is your specialty in cybersecurity, and how can others gain expertise in your specialty? You already mentioned threat hunting, so it's like kind of repeating itself, but can you tell me how others can get into that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I know that you're on the red side of things. You're definitely more proactive on adversarial tactics, whereas I'm totally blue team. I am a defender. I like being on blue team. I know red team is super popular, and obviously the majority of your audience is probably red team minded. But I'm here to say that being blue team is just as thrilling. I promise you. So how I got in was actually my first cybersecurity job was as a phishing contractor. And I almost said no, actually, but I needed my foot in the door, right? And I think that's the idea that you have to have when you want to work in cybersecurity, whether it is red team, whether it is GRC, whether it is as a SOC analyst. I think you need to chase opportunities. And if you see something that's like kind of remotely in that field, just kind of jump in and do it. And so that's what I did. So I was a fishing contractor. It was really scary because it's a contracting position, right? And so it was only for 6 months. I needed a full-time job. I already told you guys I'm a mom. I need stable employment. But I went ahead and said yes, and it paid off. I just tried to absorb as much as I could. I kind of said yes to a lot of things that weren't necessarily fun, but I looked at it as like a growth experience. This is experience no one can take away from me, and it paid off. So, and I only did that for 3 months because at the end of 3 months, there was a position for the same company for their SOC. It was called their managed detection and response, and I applied for it. I wasn't ready. I didn't feel comfortable. I was super nervous, but sometimes you have to just go ahead and make that jump regardless if you feel 100% ready, because I don't think you'll ever get there. And I'm so glad I had a supportive team, managers, because I wouldn't have applied for it on my own, and I got the job. So after 3 months as a fishing analyst, I was able to transition to a full-time employee in the SOC. So yeah, that was my breaking into cyber story. But I guess to add additional context to the area where I live, so I live in the United States in a state called Georgia, and the area where I live had a lot of contracting cybersecurity jobs. So that's how I even initially got kind of interested in cybersecurity, is because my area had those openings around me. Obviously, a lot's changed now. I know the landscape's a lot different, but I still think it's important to chase those opportunities, even if they're kind of gross, even if they're not as glamorous. Sometimes they can really, really pay off.
Yeah, I love that, and your mentality of like jumping into something that you're not super comfortable with. I think it's important to just go ahead and try, even if you don't feel comfortable. And I read someone on LinkedIn saying like some jobs are like your dream jobs, some are like the stepping stone into a dream job, or some jobs are just, oh, I need to buy bread for today, I need to eat,
Right?
So
Yeah.
everything connects. So I don't think anyone should be ashamed of the job they currently have. It's a stepping stone to somewhere then they need to go. So I think that's super important to highlight as well. And what qualities do you believe are highly successful cybersecurity professionals share, or maybe should possess, and like what are would be the qualities of a threat hunter that you
Yeah.
think he should have, or he or she?
Okay. So I think to be in cybersecurity, you work with like a ton of brilliant people on a day to day. So being smart and being interested in the field is kind of like just a baseline standard. But I think what really can help you stand out is really honing in on the gift of communication, flexing that muscle, and being comfortable with talking, being comfortable sharing things. So what can happen is, because you work with so many brilliant people, everyone kind of assumes you know this already, or everyone assumes you know this attack, or these findings. Everyone just assumes everyone knows everything. And so what happens is there's like there starts to be like a stop of communication. And the longer I'm in this field, I really value those individuals who can communicate effectively, efficiently, without prompting, and they stand out even from a junior role. If you're telling me, hey, I saw this attack, this is what happened, this is what I think I should do, what do you think? Or, hey, I saw you ran this down, it was really interesting, I've never seen that attack, how can I learn more? Just being able to communicate. And again, I think part of that too is a lot of us who work in this field, we're pretty introverted, and so it can be uncomfortable to ask people questions, to kind of dive in. But if we're all like that, then no one's going to learn anything. And so it really does make you stand out when you do proactively communicate with either your managers, with your peers, with other leaders. I know I've watched plenty of webinars and things online, or even YouTube videos, and then afterwards went to LinkedIn and messaged the person and been like, hey, I just watched your video on Kerber roasting. I think it was excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And then, I not only did I learn something from that video, but I also made a new connect, because usually that leader is like, hey, I'm glad someone watched it and valued it. And then also you kind of start like a baseline of communication. So that way in the future, should you ever like need to reach out to that individual, there's kind of like a little breadcrumb that you started from for forever ago. It's already there. So honestly, I think if you lean into communication, just baby steps, just leaving comments on streams, just leaving comments on, like, start small and then work your way up. I think that's a really important muscle that can really differentiate you from other candidates in the field.
That's actually that's super like simple and yet very important, and not something that I would think. I thought you were going to say, I don't know, hacker mindset or like thinking outside of the box, but actually we are on the stage when the people don't really leave the house. They're like really introverted, and like I think COVID didn't help with like being more outside there. So I think we communication is like really important, and I didn't really realize that yeah, we have this problem even, but actually yes. So for me, I have like the same experience when I joined a team and I really wanted to learn from them, but it turns out like when someone is like already established in the field, or like they feel they have some knowledge, yeah, they're like busy with their work, so they don't feel like I want to like babysit you. So it's like sometimes it would be nice when there's like more sharing of the knowledge, but
Right.
I'm also like very I can do it myself, but just trying to say that communication is important to me as well, and like sharing the knowledge, learning from other people, and even if I could look through like I don't know, behind the shoulder, like from behind of a person what he's doing,
Mhm.
that would be really nice. But just yeah, like a side note, I guess. Uh, that's like a bit of a curveball now, but I think you can handle that question. If there is one myth that you could debunk in cybersecurity, what could it be?
One myth in cybersecurity that I could debunk. I don't know. I think the landscape has changed a lot. So like I'm really like hesitant to give like career advice to people, but I would say don't let other people limit you. So I'm gonna tell kind of a story here. Um, so there was a position that I really wanted internally, and I thought like I was doing all the right stuff. All the right stuff to get this position, right? And so I applied for it and I got shut down. They weren't really interested in me applying for it. And so I knew I could do this job, right? And so I remember talking and asking for advice from my managers or whatever. They're like, just hustle, kind of like put in the work and you'll get the job. But I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm kind of better than this. And so I put that to the test. I worked on my resume, and then I applied to other places, and I landed a job at a great company. It's where I'm at now. It's at Wiz, and all that to say is, I think you do need checks and balances, and listen to feedback from your mentors, from the people around you, but don't let that be a limiting factor. Because if I would have taken that rejection of like, oh, I'm not ready for this next step, I would have never be where I'm at today. And that would make me so sad, because I'm so happy. Like I love what I do today. I love the company I work for. So sometimes those roadblocks that you face, they're there for a reason, and they're there to help you grow and overcome. So I guess the biggest myth I would just say, just like, you hear advice from all these people, and even me, you hear advice from like me and from other industry leaders and stuff. But don't let that stop you from doing what you're capable of. We all have these like setbacks. We all have these no's that are thrown kind of in our faces at times, and it can be defeating. But just know, my grandma used to tell me this saying, and it really stuck with me. It was, if you want something, and God either gives you two answers. He either tells you, okay, here it is, or no, wait, I have something better. And for me, that was definitely the case. I got kind of the dream job in my mind. So I don't want you guys to limit yourself from things that you see online, from things that you might hear from your mentors. You, and I mean, I'm a testament to that. That please stay encouraged. I know it's really tough out there, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you. I love that. Yeah, I want to say also from my side, it's kind of like back and forth. So I'm not going to only ask you questions. Sometimes I have something to add as well. So this time, I really wanted when I started to be a pen tester and started working at that job, I had like a chat with my then manager that I would like to shadow on the red team assignments and like become a red teamer in few years. And I asked him, well, what is the timeline when that could happen for me? Like even the shadow sitting
Mm-hmm.
at the project and like looking what they're doing. So he said, oh, you need at least 5 years of experience in pen testing. And that kind of like killed my spirit a bit for a moment there
Right.
because it's like, oh, because before I worked 8 years in a government for local government, and I was mobbed, and no one really saw my value, and I was working really hard, and I was never promoted or I never got any raises there. So it was like really hard to keep my spirit like strong, and this felt like, oh, I really want this. I see this in my future, and he said, no, no, you're not good enough, kind of, but. I didn't allow this to uh, like
Yeah.
kill my spirit kind of because yeah I really want that, and I thought if I would just yeah, I don't really have to wait those 5 years. I can switch a job and be the red teamer much sooner than that, and I did that kind of. So but
Mm-hmm.
what I was trying to say is like actually I'm happy that this happened, uh, that I'm on the market again, because now I see like the power of the community. The people are like really stepping in, even from the other sides of the world, to get me like foot in the door in the job at Warsaw, because they work like a big companies. They have a branch opened in Poland. Actually, I'm happy that it happened the way it happened because it's kind of like you said, it's like not now, but I have something better, something is
Mm-hmm.
cooking for you, so just don't lose hope. And yeah, keep on moving forward. I guess keep on learning and yeah, doing your best. So thank you for mentioning that. Reminds me of my
Yeah.
of my story as well.
Yeah, no. I think sometimes too, what can happen is you see, I mean, it's good to have a community, but you always have to remember this is your journey. And I think sometimes we can like compare ourselves to other people and be like, hey, I think I should be here, or, I should be further in my career. But honestly, it's like if you have your plan that you like, your goal is to become, whether it's, a red teamer or a SOC analyst or a threat hunter, and you're working to that and you're happy, like, I just sometimes if you look too much at other people, you can get discouraged and you can think, oh, why not? And I just, just be careful with like comparing, because I think, as a whole, as an individual, our journeys are so unique and we have like, such a great breadth of experience. And there's a lot of value in what we bring to the table. So I think what'll happen will happen when it needs to happen, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes universe works in a mysterious ways sometimes,
Right.
and yeah, yeah, I do agree with that. And sometimes it's like you don't expect something to happen, but then it makes sense. So, like, oh,
Hmm.
I see the bigger
Right.
picture now,
Yeah.
and
It needed to
yeah,
happen
I
that way
understand now.
for sure.
So,
Totally.
okay, so next question would be, uh, yeah, can you share any interesting or challenging stories from your experience as a threat hunter? And yeah, the next question would be, and how did you start? But I really already heard that, but maybe you have some fun stories to tell
Yeah,
us.
yeah, I can definitely share some stories. Okay, so if we relate it just to threat hunting, one of the major things that like one of the low level threats that is easy hanging fruit to get if you're a threat hunter is searching for remote access tools. So this is going to be software like, AnyDesk, ConnectWise, VNC Viewer, and these can result in low level scams all the way up, into ransomware. And so as a threat hunter, this is just like easy, again, low hanging fruit to scope for an environment. How I approach threat hunting. So I'm sure it's like this probably in every kind of field of cybersecurity. Obviously, there's a framework. The framework that I use in my head is not an official one, but it's called OSCAR. And so it stands for Orient, Strategize, Collect Evidence, Analyze Findings, and then Record Data. And this is how I approach every threat hunt. So I have to orient on like, okay, what's my environment look like? I have to strategize. I have to think, okay, what tools are at my disposal? Do I have endpoint? Do I have network? Do I have, web application access? Stuff like that. Then let's see, I have to collect the data. So if I'm searching for remote access tools, I might look at endpoint activity. I might look at some like MDM activity to see, what's all in the environment. And so I collect all those, whether it's in logs, and I extract that data into something else like Excel. I'm in Excel a lot. And then let's see, orient, strategize, collect evidence, analyze my findings. I see, is there any weird connections? When did they download this? How did they get it? Is there a business use case for it? And then I record all these findings and then post it up. So that's kind of the outline of how Stacey, approaches threat hunting. Obviously, different companies have different frameworks that they use. That's my framework. And what I love the best about this framework for me is that so I can look at things that are posted on Twitter/X, things that are posted on LinkedIn, and then apply that to my environment. So one of the recent things was that GitHub exploit where they were exploiting people who were subscribed to certain public GitHub repositories and, sending them phishing emails that looked like, because they were opening an issue and saying, hey, there's a security vulnerability. And then they were sending them phishing emails telling them to go to like github-scanner.com. And so with new intel like that, that's super short-lived, I can go ahead and take my IOC. I know what my environment, I can go ahead, throw out my query in the environment. I know no one should be going to that domain. So I collect all the evidence if I have any evidence, and then I record those findings, and then I have a nice little wrapped up threat hunt. And so that's typically how I approach threat hunting. And like I said, it's fun because things that are posted about that day, I already know if they're in my environment at work. I already know if I need to go ahead and remediate. It's really malleable. It's really to me, really fun. I sometimes I hear this phrase that people say cybersecurity is fun and sexy. Okay, I don't know what career is sexy other than maybe like a model or something. But in that terms, I think that's what makes what we do so important, so timely, so I don't know, kind of fast paced, is because we're taking real threats that we see day to day and protecting the people around us, so that way they can do what they do best. And in my case, it's they work in the cloud, they do amazing things and protect other companies. So that's probably not the kind of fun story you were looking for, but I can tell you a different fun story. So before I was in my current position, I worked as a SOC analyst. And so we were an MSSP, so managed service security provider. And so that means our customers were in all sorts of different domains. And I can tell you, it wasn't a ton, but the number of times that people got in trouble or like they got viruses at work because they were searching up like naughty things, or they were downloading like that the adult content, like who does that on their work computer? And so it was always super awkward to write the report to send to the customer because like the customer would always come back like, well, how did they get this? And then you have to give them the domain that they got the drive-by malware from, and it's sexy girls or whatever. That's always so cringy and so awkward. And then plus, because you just the field is majority male dominated, so it's awkward all around when you when you have to send a report like that. But that's happened several times in my career, and it's always cringy each time. Sorry, that was like a lot. That was like word vomit. I'm so sorry.
Hey, no, 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 it's okay. I'm the same. So I talk a lot when I have like a good connection with someone. So it's perfectly fine. Do that. And so and actually your answer was perfect because I didn't ask you actually what is threat hunting before we went into like the deeper end. So you kind of explained what is threat hunting. And I have a question from the chat. So is it close to forensic, kind of, or maybe you're doing your analysis after the forensic? So can you maybe elaborate on that? Like what is threat hunting and does it have any to do with forensic? Yeah.
Okay, so number one, what is threat hunting? So the way I look at threat hunting is we already have our security posture set up, and I'm looking for gaps in our posture. So I want to make sure, essentially, I'm acting as checks and balances to make sure our security tech is working as it should. And so sometimes when there's new IOCs, I want to make sure that my new IOC isn't leaking through, whether it's a malware domain, whether it's a new C2, whether it's some initial vector, some or some new process, attack process. I want to make sure I don't see that in my environment. And if I do, then I can raise it to my team. Hey, this is what's happening. We need to write a new detection to cover this. So there is some analysis that goes into my findings. However, it's not probably as deep as probably are thinking. So usually, like if there's a threat, what I'm going to do is if there's C2, then I'm going to go ahead and contain that host and get it off the network. So that way we can stop network connections. And so there is going to, if I see that at that point, there's definitely going to be some analysis there. So I'm going to knock off that host off the network. I'm going to timeline that host to see the initial vector. If there's evidence of process execution, which at that point there probably is, I'm probably going to wipe that host, from a fresh starting point. So that way there's no evidence of that malware again. But in order to do that, I need to know when that malware first got on that host. So there is a bit of forensics, but it's probably not to the level of, your IR consultants who are, diving deep into, I don't know, honestly, I'm not even sure the realm of IR. I just know it's super tedious when they're combing multiple computers for ransomware binaries, cleaning up an entire environment. Their work is next level. Mine is nowhere near that. Usually I'm dealing with one host, cleaning up one host, making sure there's no evidence of malicious activity, getting it back to a clean state, and getting it back online as soon as possible. So a little bit.
Thank you for explaining. That's pretty cool. I didn't even realize how cool that is. I'm like this pen testing, So you're like opening the whole new world in front of me.
Yeah.
So what advice or tips would you offer to beginners interested in threat hunting and where they could learn about it, like where
Yeah.
they could start?
Yeah. Okay. So I definitely think it's important. Threat hunting is probably one of those things where, okay, I'm going to be a little cringy and say it's not entry level, because you do need some experience with different attack vectors and just knowing where to look for things. But essentially, I think when you're pivoting into cybersecurity or when you're trying to break in, the thing that makes you kind of unstoppable is having that framework. So at some companies, I think they use run books or playbooks. And essentially what those do, right, they tell you, okay, if you see this, go here. If you don't see this, go here. And it's like, obviously it's a step-by-step how to run this. So the dangers with operating of just off of playbook is what happens when there's a new threat? What happens when there's a new tactic? It's like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. And so the problem with playbooks is I feel that if people depend on them too much, they lose that critical thinking aspect that is so necessary in today's world with threats constantly evolving. So I think the biggest leg up that you can give yourself is coming up with your own framework, whether that's Oscar. I think, oh man, there's so many out there. Oscar's just the one that I use. And that that's my step. That's my playbook that I use. I orient, strategize, collect evidence, analyze findings, and record that data. And so that's applicable when I threat hunt. That's applicable when a user's like, hey, I'm getting these weird pop-ups. That's applicable when I get an alert. So having this framework that you can take to any aspect is will do you such a solid, because it gives you a baseline to just kind of like, oh, I know what to do next. Even if I've never seen this activity, what do I know about it? Where can I collect my evidence from? What am I going to do? And then you can analyze your findings and then obviously record that. So all that to say, my advice is find your own framework, find your own playbook that you can do again and again and again. And you might even do that with some of these new attacks that you see. I'm on X a lot because they just post a lot of the new threats like super soon. But on LinkedIn, on X, when you see someone post an interesting article, you can even think, okay, I know the tactic, whether it's, I don't know, I don't want to use the GitHub one again. I can't think of another recent one that we just saw. But you can, like, how would you run that down in your environment? If you see an article and be like, okay, I say I have my imaginary company, Sparkles. How am I going to see if this evil vector is in my company, Sparkles? Like, what am I going to do first? Am I going to query the endpoints? Or, do I need network logs here? Or do I need to reach out to end user? Or is reaching out to the end user even make sense? So those are hypotheticals, and I'm trying to give you guys things that you can do even if you don't have your own company, to kind of practice on. But I think, again, reading articles and seeing how you would detect that in an imaginary environment might start to give you that critical thinking skills of what do I need to do? How would I go about finding this in an XYZ company? Sorry, that might have been confusing.
No, it's actually very smart. So you read something online and like you find a new vector, new attack, and you kind of like quiz yourself, or how would I approach that if that happens to my company? And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
very smart because then you are like quick on your toes. You think quickly, and like if you just close yourself into like playbooks and like steps to take, and there's like no steps for I don't know this one,
Yeah,
then you kind of like
stuck.
stuck. Yeah, I wanted to use a different word, but stuck is good. Okay, and I have some questions from the chat. So it's mostly Windows machines or other operating systems? You
Majority Windows.
mentioned cloud, actually. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Yeah, so majority of Windows is what we see the most like drive-by malware on, but that's not to say Mac doesn't. There is an info stealer called Amos Info Stealer. I think it has a new name now. But what this one does, is usually it targets crypto wallets, but it steals all your passwords. And the way that it looks so real is there's an OSA script that pops up, and it looks so legitimate because on an end user's computer, all they see is it looks like, the system preferences popped up and it wants you to enter your password. And for an end user who doesn't really, not really exercising the extra judgment, they enter their password and then it steals all their saved cookies, all everything. It's a bit of a mess. So that's to say that Mac isn't unheard of or not seen at all. Mac definitely is, but Windows machines are the dominant ones that are probably getting into more trouble than Macs.
Thank you. And another question was, what query languages do you use?
Um, I guess it depends on the tech stack. Yeah, so I mean, it just depends, and that was one of the hard things working for an MSSP, is because especially at the one that I worked at, it was a bring your own technology. So I think they had like 100 and something integrations that they worked with. So that means our like SIMs were like QRadar, Exabeam, Splunk. Our endpoints were Sentinel-1, CrowdStrike, Defender for Endpoint. So we had to know how to query in all those languages. And so let me tell you, do I know how to query it in all those languages? No. A lot of my queries use wildcards and were kind of wild west queries. But one of the things that I found to be helpful was to go broad, and then I can narrow it down. So again, I'm not a master of any query language, I would say, but yeah, I'm not a master of any query language. I just go really broad and then start to narrow it down. But honestly, for a lot of things, I'm using timeline analysis to determine if something is anomalous in a user's timeline.
Yeah, I will read a comment from the chat. A lot of people think macOS is secure or like Linux, but it's not really. Few cybersecurity researchers are into macOS. Most of them are on Windows because it's used the most out there. So yeah, I think that's legit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think some people are probably more cavalier with Macs because of this like kind of false sense of security that they think like, oh, I'm on a Mac, I can't get any malware. Or there's just this underlying misconception that it's kind of, oh, I'm protected, I'm on a Mac. And that's unfortunately not the case, especially again, the threats evolve so fast. Um, and Macs aren't exempt.
Another question from the chat. I think that's a pretty cool one. Are you doing active recon on APTs or dark web sites?
Um, no, for dark web. No, I don't touch dark web. I would say the active recon. No, actually, I'm gonna say no to both of those. I don't do any like active reconnaissance on my end. All the IOCs that I get are from researchers. So no, I might plug them into my environment and see if I can see any of those um, process trees, any of those chain of events in my own environment. But am I doing the actual analysis to that level? No, it's just kind of outside of the realm of my job.
Your camera just zoomed in. That was so cool. Yeah, there's one comment from the chat. Thank you, because I see a lot of people into threat hunting and think that is only dark web and stuff. So you explained this to, I guess, I wouldn't say internet because the whole internet is not here, but maybe like some of the people that are interested.
Yeah.
Uh,
I will say though, one of the unsung heroes really of cybersecurity, I think, are threat researchers. They're doing really cool stuff. In my mind, they're honestly probably the counterpart to our red teams and penetration testers. I know the threat research team at Wiz. They just, they one of the things they recently found was a vulnerability in some large language learning model, and so they get to break stuff, and they're like they're on the front line. They're on the front line of breaking things, obviously with permission, and securing things as much as they can. And then after everything's remediated, they get to share those findings to the broader community. And I think what they do is so important, because without them breaking things, and just being curious, we would probably still have a lot more vulnerabilities than we do. So honestly, I think their jobs are pretty cool. And sometimes they're exploiting things before attackers even get the ability to, and reporting vulnerabilities and exploits that attackers don't even know about. So and getting that secured kind of ahead of the game. So I think threat researchers really are unsung heroes and a hidden gem of cybersecurity.
uh, okay, and what are some common misconceptions about threat hunting that you'd like to clear up? I think you did uh, that already a bit, but maybe there are like some that you didn't mention.
Yeah, so I think threat hunting looks different at probably every organization. I think there's something to be said about working in a SOC at a managed security provider, service provider, because you have access to so many customers versus working at an internal SOC or internal security where it's just one. One environment. There's pros and cons to both of them that I think you should consider even if you're looking just for security, for red team, for what, for whatever your specific domain is, obviously the benefit for working at a managed security provider is that there's so many different environments. That's so cool. You have access to, probably you have customers in different fields, from like the sports field, from healthcare, from government agencies, from, entertainment agencies. But the downside is that's so many different environments to know. That's so many different environments to have to be familiar with. And that kind of, it can be overwhelming. And honestly, I think the way that for my career, I started off in that environment. And so that was really helpful, but it was also not really sustainable. And I know we had talked about this before, but there came a point in my career where I was starting to get burnt out. I was just triaging so many alerts. It was kind of weighing on my soul almost. And so I switched it up because I love being an analyst. I love what I do, but I switched up my environment. And so now I'm internal security for one company. And the benefit there is I get to know my environment inside and out. I get to know all the people who work there. I know all our tech stack. That like I can be a subject matter expert in this area. Whereas if you work, for multiple customers, you can't. So I think that's something to consider that people don't really talk about, is working at, a company for an internal security or working for a managed service provider. There's benefits and cons to both, but they're definitely different environments that you have to work with on a day-to-day.
Oh, that's really good to know. That's really, thank you for mentioning
Yeah.
that.
No. I think there's, like I said, there's pros and cons to both. And I think at the beginning of your career, when you're so hungry and so thirsty and just like want to be fed from a fire hose, maybe working for a service provider is the way to go, because you are going to get
Yeah.
that overexposure. But I do think it's probably not sustainable long term, just because there's so much going on. But there's pros and cons.
Yeah, and you get the alert fatigue, right?
Yeah, you definitely do. But I will say you get fast at being able to recognize, nope, that's not how that's supposed to work. That looks weird. And then you do get impressed sometimes, like, whoa, that's how they did that. So again, it's a mixed bag. It's definitely a huge learning opportunity. I would encourage everybody, if you're trying to get your foot in the door, or if you get an opportunity to work in a SOC, to definitely do so, because it's really invaluable. But at the same time, you come out a monster, and you're probably ready for internal security at a single company after that.
Yeah. Yeah. What are okay, next question. I just need to formulate it in my brain, kind of. Are there
Yeah.
any challenges you had to face as a woman working in cybersecurity?
Yeah. There's the obvious challenges about being a girl in a boy's world. They communicate usually a little bit different. They're a little bit more direct, more to the point. There's the obvious things. The biggest thing that I struggled with is when I first got into cybersecurity, I was pretty quiet. And in my personal life, I'm pretty introverted. And I knew I wanted my cybersecurity career to be different. And so I made it a point to be kind of like, I'm going to contribute. So the problem with that is, and I kept hearing people, just speak up, just speak up. And so the problem with that I encountered was I started speaking up, but I lacked confidence and conviction. And so I can tell you about one time, there was some weird activity. A binary was making network connections to a domain it shouldn't. And I remember speaking up and saying, hey, I think this is weird. We should look at it. And no one in the team really acknowledged. And then later on, a male colleague said the same thing, and they took it seriously. And I was like, whoa. And I had several
Oh.
points in my career where that happened. And what I learned from that is that, I mean, I don't want to give this this is what you need to do. But for me, what I did is I did learn to change the way I spoke. Sometimes I have a tendency to speak kind of high and end on a high note. And I guess sometimes males again, I don't want to generalize, but I came off as not confident. I came off as wishy-washy. And sometimes I would use these padding things like, oh, but maybe I'm just crazy, or oh, but I don't know. And I had to knock that shit off because nobody wants to hear someone who's wishy-washy. We don't have time for that. Either speak up and say what you need to say with confidence and conviction. So if you don't believe yourself when you speak up, how is anybody else going to believe you? And they don't have time to hold your hand. And especially, again, male dominated industry, they're not going to baby you. They're working just as hard as you are to be in that spot. And so I think that was probably the biggest battle I faced, was learning. Again, that goes back to my first my first thing of learning how to communicate effectively and efficiently, because there's I'm telling you, it's so painful to be able to spot bad and to call it out, and for no one to recognize or acknowledge it. And that was something I never wanted to do again. That was something that I definitely wanted to change about myself. And I mean, it took like 2 years for me to be able to change the way I spoke, change the way I called attention to things. And so I'll fast forward. So, year and a half, 2 years later, still in the working in the SOC. I had come on to shift, and someone on the prior shift closed something out, and they said, "Oh, this looks like IT work." And one of the seniors at the time, he was like, "Hey, what's this? Like, what happened?" And the guy was like, "Oh, no big deal. It's IT work." And I went back and just like looked at it because it did look weird. And I was looking at it, and there was these weird binaries, and they were staged in the pictures folder. And what should be in the pictures folder? Pictures. Why is like PC Hunter 64 in pictures? That's weird. And I remember at that point I was like, this isn't going to happen again. I'm speaking up. And so what I told him, I said, "Hey, listen," I said, "the activity here is weird and it shouldn't be happening. Either you can escalate to a senior, or I'm going to escalate to a senior. You have the opportunity. If you want to take command and do it, you do it. But if you don't do it, I'm going to do it." And he went ahead and he escalated it, and it ended up being staging for ransomware. And so all that to say is like, it was my growth. It had to have happened. It was painful when it happened at the beginning. It didn't happen overnight. It took years for me to be able to, believe in myself and to believe in the things, and take the risk of being wrong. But it paid off, and it paid off in a huge way, because I can tell you, if I would have let him just close that, and then like, a couple hours later we would have found out that was ransomware. Oh my gosh, that's not something that I want on my conscience to sleep at night. So yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing as a female that I have struggled with in cybersecurity.
Yeah, like, and congratulations. Yeah, well done. Yay.
I know, growth, it does happen. It just kind of sometimes can take a long time, but it can happen.
So yeah, I had actually the same thing. So at my first job, I was like super like a gray mouse, kind of like a person that yeah
Mm-hmm.
didn't speak out, but just worked really hard and hoping that someone will notice me and like yeah promote me or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, then I learned that yeah, there was one girl in that company that became friends with the directors, like talked about her in like the best way possible, as men do actually. They say a lot of good things. They sell themselves also in the job interviews, and we said, oh, I'm not sure if I know. So we
Mm-hmm.
are like making ourselves less, although we are like really big and we're
Yeah.
capable and smart, but we make us like look smaller than we actually. I think that's really strange. Why are we doing that?
I
Tell me.
know, it's painful. And what's so funny is like, so there was some other females in the SOC, and I could see them doing it too. Because and then I would like message them. I'd be like, "Stop apologizing. Don't ask. Tell them this is what you're doing." And so like, you can definitely identify in other people, but by default, I think it's so sad that I feel like so many women do this, and maybe some men do too. But like by default, it's just we try to make ourselves smaller, and it's such a disservice to what we bring to the table, and it can be a hard habit to break.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with like the way we are like I don't know. I want to say maybe groomed, but I'm not sure that's the right word. That we are like taught as a young people like children that we should be nice to each other, and like you should be a good girl. You cannot speak without being asked first, something like that. So we are learning that we are not allowed to, I don't know, take space, to be loud, to,
Mhm.
So it's really sad that we, as adults, we have to learn, forget all of that we were taught as children, and then learn how to be a woman, how to stand into our power, how to show our strengths there. So it's like, yeah, it's a progress actually. It's like a learning journey, I think, for
It
every woman, I
is.
think.
Yeah, it really is, and it kind of sucks that it's a common trend. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. Hopefully, we can get to a spot where it's not so common, where we just are strong by default. But it is a reality.
Yeah, it would be nice to be strong by default. I still have the imposter syndrome, like knocking on my shoulder. Oh,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. I'm not happy with what you did there. Yeah, I learned to say, shut up. It's
Yeah.
not true. Stop lying to me. But it's
Hmm.
still like a work in progress, I guess.
Yeah. Every day.
Yeah. Uh, so now I'm going to ask you a bit more like relaxed questions, but if anyone has any more technical questions, please write them in the chat. I'm happy to ask them to Stacy. But what is your favorite hacker movie, and why does it resonate with you?
Okay, so I don't think I have a favorite hacker movie. It wasn't until like I think last year that I finally saw The Matrix. I just don't really watch, but what I do really like is I like the dystopian movies about like, in the future. I know there was like Minority Report was really cool to me. Where the like you had the thought crimes or whatever, and because I think the underlying trend with all these is like, technology obviously gets too smart and, obviously is a detriment to society. And I think it's really interesting because especially today we are just like on the cusp of seeing that in reality.
Yeah,
And it's so frightening, but it's also really interesting to see the different ways movies portray how this takes off. I know Elysium is another movie, and it has to do with like people on earth are all like earth is overfilled or whatever, so like all the really rich people now live like in a sphere around earth. And this guy, he's trying to get up to the sphere to heal someone. But so to answer your question, I don't think I have a favorite hacker movie, but I do like the dystopian future movies, because they're just so eerily frightening. Um, because it could be our reality one day, and I think that's what makes it so spooky. Is we don't know what our reality is going to look like. Maybe it'll look like that. Hopefully, it won't look like most of those. But I would say the dystopian future ones are my favorite because they're just scary.
yeah. I actually like the Minority Report and like the Blade Runner as well. I actually read all of the Philip K. Dick's books, so I was big on science fiction literature when I was a teenager. So yeah, I'm really happy that you like that one. Uh, this is a bit of a curveball question, but yeah. So can you share a life hack that you find particularly useful?
I have to think now. What's a cool hack that I Man, I am so basic. I like eat the same foods every day. I'm like I sometimes I try new things. Like okay, so this is not an answer to your question at all, but I'm one of those people when you go to a restaurant and so it's a restaurant that you've been to all the time. I always order the same thing. And my husband is the type of person who every time he goes, he gets something different. And that just is wild to me because maybe I'm just kind of a control freak, but it's like I don't want to waste a going out meal on a meal that could be bad. So I always default to the same meal. So if I'm going out to a Mexican restaurant, I always order like my tacos and rice. Whereas my husband, every time we go, he's ordering something different. And to me, that's nope, I can't do that. Same thing like if I'm traveling on a plane, I always get a ginger ale. I'm not trying to branch out and get something different. I am a creature of habit. I am unfun. I am not spicy at all. So unfortunately, I probably don't even have any useful hacks other than I stay consistent. My husband sometimes says, "Oh, you're boring," and I say, "No, I'm traditional." That's how I like classic things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I like that answer actually. And it really resonated with me when you mentioned ginger ale because try to order it on a plane as well because I don't think we have it in Poland. So
Oh.
I really loved it when I was in the Netherlands. So I drink a lot of it. I gained a lot of weight, but but on the flight I get it tastes so good,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, oh, chills.
No, it is. I'll tell you a funny story about that too. So, I heard you're supposed to have like I heard tomato juice tastes really good in the plane, like up, like and I see people order it sometimes when they're flying to get tomato juice. So I tried it last time, and it was a huge mistake. It just tasted like tomato soup, and I was so mad. I did not just get my normal ginger ale, and I was like, this is why I don't branch out because I tried it and it didn't work, and now I missed out on my ginger ale. So yeah, I'm unfun. I'm pretty boring when it comes to the branching out.
Yeah, but I kind of understand that because you have your food palette, you have your taste for like the particular things that you know that will hit the spot and like make you happy on the instant. And sometimes I don't know, you go try something else and it tastes like I don't know, crap.
Yeah, it's like why did I
So
do that? Yeah,
it's like makes you really sad and that your next hours are like really you're
yeah.
not happy, so why take risks? But I'm actually a person that I'm a foodie, so always when I'm traveling, I'm trying to order something regional that I didn't eat before, or
Mhm.
something that yeah, something new, so I can experience that. Okay, it may be a mistake, but then I will know, so I will not try that again. But although it's fun because I'm in the country that and I'm experiencing their food, so yeah, that's fun for me, and yeah, and I can always order, I don't know, cheese or like something that I know I
Yeah.
will love next. So yeah, but I'm a foodie, so I like to experience new things. I'm like a kind of like an adventurer, I would
Oh,
say.
okay. Okay.
So I don't know if that's a good description of who I am, but I'm like into. Uh, I'm multi-layered so, because sometimes I want to have a pattern, but and then I get tired with the pattern, so I want excitement, and then I'm tired with excitement, so I want the
Go
pattern
back
back
to that.
again. So it's like okay, so it's two sides of a coin, kind of. But I really like ginger ale, like what you said just now. Um, okay, now I'm going to ask about books, but yeah. What is the best book or movie that you can be used to illustrate cybersecurity challenges? I don't know if you have an answer to that, but yeah, it's a strange question actually.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't really, but I will say if you've seen the show, I think it's called Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
And okay, so I will so I've seen a few episodes, but actually my CISO, his name is Ryan Kazansian. He was actually a consultant, a security consultant on that show to help them
What?
illustrate realistic threats or tactics. So I would say probably that, even though I'm not like a big fan of that show or I haven't watched a ton of episodes of that show, but I will say, if I have to give an answer, I'll probably give that one because he worked on it and he's pretty proud of it. So that's what I would say.
Then maybe can you give me his digits because I want to invite this guy.
Yeah, no.
Because I'm a huge fan, so I think that would be a good topic to talk about.
Yeah. No, he's super cool. One of the cool things that I will say that my org does is we have skip level one-on-ones. And so I have my weekly one-on-one with my manager, but every other week or once a month I have a meeting with our CISO. And this is the first org that I've ever been with that does something like that. And I think it's only again because we're a startup and we're growing that we're able to do that. But it is kind of cool because I get face to face time with him. And so he knows my name. He knows who I am. He knows that I have, two boys. He knows that I like threat hunting and some of the cool things that I found. And likewise, I could ask him, like, a couple weeks ago, he went to the White House and I get to ask him, like, oh, what was that like? Or what advice do you have for me? So, that's a cool component that a Wiz does. And, I don't know. It's just something unique that I found really valuable, and so it's kind of made me a little bit more familiar with him and made him a mentor. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's really. I just wanted to say that I'm really happy that you found this job and you have because it sounds like you found your place in the industry and you're growing there and expanding your wings. But that sounds a bit cliche. But yeah, expanding your knowledge and your possibilities. So I'm really happy that you found that.
Thank you.
Hopefully I'm going to get there soon because I have
You
some
will.
nice companies looking at my direction and like interviewing me now. So yeah, side note, I learned a lot on myself
Hmm.
when I was interviewing. So because at first I felt like not confident to actually go for the companies I wanted to work for it because I felt, oh, I'm not sure because yeah, the previous companies kind of played with my head a bit, like the
Right?
consultancy company when they told me, oh yeah, you 5 years, and then no one really saw me. I felt like I'm not a good pen tester. I felt like yeah, I'm not good at it. So maybe I should quit. I had those thoughts
Oh
even. So
no. Yeah.
so it really played with my head. So I'm really hoping that like the next company would be something like that, where I could grow at. And I learned like starting saying that but I didn't finish. I think jumped to something else. So when I what I learned that I started applying because I was panicking because I lost the job, and I started applying just anywhere because I needed a job. But turns out like it was a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing because I practiced interviewing and I bumped a lot of interviews. So, and the technical
Oh, I've
ones
done that
made
too.
me like really nervous. So, I didn't show my best side on those interviews. I'm not super proud of myself, but I'm also proud because I was sending those CVs. I was actively trying to be hired, and I got the interviews because my profile looks phenomenal, I guess. But then when I bumped interviews, they were kind of disappointed. So that was also like,
It's a
oh,
journey.
yeah, that was hard on me as well. So, but what I was trying to say is like I really learned how to be a stronger person, how to believe in myself more, how to interview, the technical interviews, how to answer the questions, what they actually asking me when they ask me what is SQL injection, they actually or asking me to find out the way I'm thinking, like to see if I understand what they asking me, you know. So and actually all of that prepared me for what is happening now because now I get connected with like bigger companies, even Google contacted me and like invited me to their interview. So yeah, it's really cool that just by I know not giving up, just being your best self, at least trying on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, you get like amazing opportunities and you are like invited to them. I discovered that some of the jobs that I applied for because it was like 100 plus rejections. I think they were not really existent. Maybe they were already filled,
Yeah.
maybe, or
There's
they
that.
just went on like trying to recruit someone for the future without having a position at the moment, or
Mhm.
something that some of the jobs didn't really exist. So what I learned, I don't really have to take it personally, and the rejection is a redirection. So all of the smaller ones that I didn't get were preparing me for the bigger ones that are coming now. So just what I wanted to say, don't take it personally and don't give up because it doesn't really matter if it's like 100 rejections, 1,000 rejections, I don't know, 500, 5,000 rejections. I don't really care what the amount is. The job that is for you is coming. So uh, just be strong and like keep on applying. So that's what I wanted to say. That's what I learned actually.
Yeah, no, and you're right. It prepares you for the next thing because it's like if you go talk, like you wouldn't be prepared for some of these opportunities that you have now if it was way back when. It's like as hard as it is to live through some of these experiences, they're necessary to get you ready for that big one, for that right one. And
Yeah.
so you can lose sight of that sometimes, but as long as you keep showing up, I think that's really important.
Yeah, and also like I don't know if I read it or I've heard it. It doesn't really matter, but I let's say I've heard it. So I heard it that you have to go to interviews even though you maybe don't want the job. To just sometimes you have to practice and like learn how to be better at it, how to be less stressed, how to talk with those people they're just like you. They are looking for employee, and you're looking for a job. So you can meet in the middle somehow. As they are there to, they want you to succeed. They are not judging you. So just, I don't know, don't be nervous.
Yeah.
And yeah, just keep on applying, because yeah, you will be better at it. So you maybe not you get the first one or like the 10th one, but yeah, your chance is coming. So yeah, that's I wanted to say that at the end. And
Yeah. No.
my next question is, it's actually two questions, but you don't have to answer the second one actually if you don't want to. So I'm perfectly fine with that. So the first one, what do you feel was your biggest win in life? And the next one is, what is the biggest mistake you've ever made, and how did you recover from it? If that is okay to ask, you don't have to answer the second one, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I think they're kind of both tied in, and so I'll. It's just like the biggest thing that I've overcome in my life. So when I was 20, I got married, and I actually was married all the way up until I was 30. And so what happened was we ended up getting divorced. My husband wanted different things, and I'm not gonna like it just shattered me really. I was the stay-at-home mom. I was, my life was built around that. The focus was him going to school, him doing the things that he needed to do to prepare his career. And then I felt like as soon as we got to the place where we weren't gonna have to struggle anymore, is when he left. And that was a game changer, and that was like a huge catalyst in my life and in my career. It was put me on a whole different path. And as painful as that experience was, I wouldn't be here today if that hadn't happened. And my quality of life, the quality of my boy's life, just the trajectory and the opportunities that I currently have now, I wouldn't have anywhere, like they wouldn't exist. Like I wouldn't be here. Had that marriage succeeded, had that relationship continued. And so that's actually what got me into cybersecurity, is because I needed to re-enter the job market. And so I turned 30. I still don't have a bachelor's degree. And so I needed to re-enter the job market. And so the first job that I got after he left was actually a 911 operator, so an emergency operator. Um, and I did that. I didn't even do it for very long. I think maybe 4 months, and it was terrible. I worked nights, so I did a 12-hour night shift, and so I like barely saw my kids. I was barely scraping by. Financially, I was making just the bare minimum, enough that we needed to survive. And it was like in those struggle moments where I was like, this isn't living. This is not a sustainable lifestyle. Like I want so much more for my children, for my boys. At the time, one of my sons, he wanted a pair of Jordans, and there was no way that I could afford that. It just was like out of the realm of possibilities. And I was just like almost crying to myself, just thinking like, I'm never going to be able to afford that for him. Like I want so much more. And so that kind of started I want more. If I want more, then I need to change something. I can't continue down this path working for 911 and expect something different to happen. Like I have to change something. And so that's what had me exploring other careers. That's what got me hearing that, oh, there's cybersecurity opportunities around here. Oh, they make good money. Let me poke at that. Let me find more information out about that. And it was also a huge motivating factor in me succeeding, because it's like I had to succeed. I need a job. I need to make it. And it was a huge motivator. And ultimately it paid off. And we're talking here today, and I'm super happy, and I have a great career. But that moment of my marriage failing, of getting divorced, of feeling unloved, feeling not enough, was really at the bottom of the bottom, but it had to happen for me to get here today. So I think that's probably been the hardest thing I've overcome, but also the thing that I don't regret, because it gave me, the life I have. So I don't know. I think it's just a testimony to those biggest setbacks again can, I mean, I feel like we're having a theme here, right? The biggest setbacks in your life, in your career can really be the catalyst to putting you on the right path to where you need to be in the future. And so that was that.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And now I have to share something about myself because I've been through a lot of struggles myself. So I already told you about the government work that I had for 8 years, and I was mobbed there. I think I mentioned that as well. So yeah, I had some really hard moments, thinking, oh, is this my life now? So
Right.
is that it? It was kind of like a moment when I was like despair, like really angry at what my life become, and I didn't plan that for myself. I always wanted to be happy, and yeah, and then I got changed the job. I got divorced as well because yeah, I felt like I stopped. There was a moment when I just stopped loving my husband, and he wasn't supporting me on the level that I needed him to. And also another thing that happened to me when I moved to the Netherlands, I I got like after I don't know like 2 years working there, I was also in like not the best relationship as well, so a bit toxic. And I was diagnosed with cancer, so he wasn't supporting me as well. So I was alone in that one as well. And but
Wow.
people tell me that it's really strange when I tell them this, but I'm happy that I got sick because it was like a slap in the face from life that you are procrastinating your life away and you have other things that you should be doing right now and you're just not putting your best self out there, so you should maybe try harder. So then it was like a wake up call for me that I really wanted to be a penetration tester. I really wanted to do something with my life. I had a lot of dreams. I wanted to be like the Mr. Robot hacker that knows everything about every technology and writes the comments like from the top of his head. So I wanted to be that person, and so yeah, when I was still in chemo, I started doing computer courses. I started doing hack the box and learning. So it was a kind of like pivotal moment in my life, and I'm really happy that I got sick. It's really strange that I'm saying that because now I really appreciate everything that is given to me. I'm grateful for everything that comes my way. Is it good or bad? Actually, I don't really think that anything that happens to us is a bad thing because every change is good. Even if you feel like that is like hurting you at the moment, that probably should happen to you because you're like learning to become someone better, someone different, and you have to go through struggles to be stronger and to be prepared for what is coming next. So yeah, I'm kind of like oversharing here, but I really like you, so I felt like yeah, it's okay. Uh,
Yeah. Oh, this is what we're here
but
for.
I,
But
I, I really resonated what you said because yeah, we come from maybe different backgrounds, but we have something in common there that we really know what despair is like, what it's like, I don't know, crying in your pillow is like. So, and we grow from that and we became stronger. So I'm really happy that I got to meet you and talk about it here. And thank you for sharing. It was like really, yeah. Uh,
yeah, no, I will say, one unfair thing that happens, and I think it probably happens to you, is when I post on social media, when I post on things about my career, about my journey, they see where I'm at now and they're like, wow, must be nice. Or they're like,
yeah.
wow, that's so easy. Or, you only got this because of X, Y, and Z. And like, in a capacity like this, we're sharing and, you're seeing the kind of different pictures from me from different angles and whatnot. And not everyone sees that. And it can be really unfortunate because sometimes I feel like I get robbed of that credibility. Like, no, I had those struggles. No, I had my own mountains to climb. And sometimes I guess, and partly too, because, you do post the highlight reels a lot of times, but our journeys are so much more dynamic than just, I got the job, I got the cert, I'm in the industry. No, there was a lot of struggle. There was a lot of heartache. There was a lot of hard work to get me to this spot today. And sometimes I think people don't realize that.
Yeah, I think sometimes maybe people think, oh, she's a cute girl. She got hired as a gender hire or whatever. But it's bullshit because yeah, I think you work hard, I work hard, and I did find myself face down in the mud a lot of times, and I just stood up and like did this. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, on to the
So
next. Let's go,
so
right?
what that's why I'm sharing the never give up because I do know how hard it can be, but if you just keep on going forward, it's important. You know, you cannot. Your mindset is really important, so you have to because maybe today is hard, maybe tomorrow is hard, maybe this year was hard, but your good day is coming to you. And I read somewhere that the darkest days, or the days or the nights are the darkest before the dawn, something like
Mm,
that. So
yeah.
yeah, I do believe that better days are coming. So we just have to move along. And yeah.
No, I definitely agree.
Uh, okay. And it's a bit back to cybersecurity. That question lost itself in here, but maybe you have an cool answer to that one. How is it that cybersecurity spending is increasing, but breaches are still happening? What do you think about that?
Um, unfortunately, it's like a really gross truth. I think there just usually isn't a budget for security until after the fact, and I don't. I mean, yeah, I vote. This is true. Like, it's an unfortunate reality of our industry, and changes don't happen until after the fact, and it doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon. I wish it would. Um, but I think progress and innovation is usually the forefront of any company, and usually, and as it should be, right? Because security only exists because the company is doing X, Y, and Z. However, sometimes I think in the process of, you know, stepping a foot into the future, we sometimes compromise security, and obviously it can lead to pretty negative results. Hopefully, it changes in the future, but we're just not there yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think sometimes maybe companies just go for the next cool thing, next hip tool to buy, but actually they forget that they need people to manage the tool. They had to train the personnel, maybe hire new people. So buying the next cool thing don't really wouldn't really fix your problems actually. So yeah, there's like yeah, a few sides to that coin there.
Yeah, definitely.
What advice would you give to someone who is just beginning to explore threat hunting?
Honestly, I think understanding the fundamentals is crucial in cybersecurity. And then I would say the next thing is don't be afraid to explore the different domains, because there's a lot of different domains in cybersecurity that still puts you under the cybersecurity umbrella. Because I mean, you have like, AppSec security, endpoint security, you have IAM security, cloud security. I mean, there's so many different niches that you can get into. So I would say if you're just starting out, don't constrain yourself to one. Don't be like, I just want to do cloud, because who knows? I mean, you might really enjoy, endpoint and network configurations or something. So I think in the beginning of your career, just kind of be open and be inquisitive, be accepting to whatever opportunities throw your way. If you have a chance to shadow someone or get that one-on-one time, because you have plenty of time to get into a real niche sector. But you just want to make sure you're finding something that you're passionate about, that you're curious about, in the long run. So, I'd say start with the basics and then stay curious.
That's a very good advice. I have a question from the chat. And threat hunting, I do malware analysis. Can you give a small overview on what processes are your BAU? Maybe you can read the comment. I'm not sure if I pronounce it correctly. And also, thanks for the Oscar framework tip. Awesome.
I will say malware analysis. So, one of my counterparts at Wiz, he's actually our malware analysis guy, and so it's actually kind of really nice because so we're both analysts and we're under the same team or whatnot. But even as an analyst, you can have your own kind of niche and your own specialty. Granted, our roles are, we still have the same responsibilities, but ultimately, when I come up with like, hey, can you take a look at this binary? I'm not really sure what this is doing, or hey, can you take a look at this PDF? I'm not sure what's embedded in it. He can rip it apart for me real quick. And so I think my advice there is don't be afraid to lean into what you're interested in, even if it's a little bit outside of your job realm, or even if it isn't explicitly in your job description, because becoming a subject matter expert in something makes you unique, makes you the go-to person. And I'm sure that helps his job security because he's kind of the malware guy. People go to him for questions, so that helps. Oh, business as usual. Oh, okay. Should have known that. Okay. So again, for malware analysis, I think for internal security, it's going to stay kind of high level. Usually the threats that we see aren't targeted. They're usually just commodity malware. So basically run of the mill malware. In an ideal world, you just can throw them in a sandbox and pull out your IOCs and then scope for any of those IOCs in your environment. But in a smaller substack, you have somebody on your team that is able to kind of rip it apart. And again, that analysis of the malware isn't necessarily, again, the most of the malware we see is just basic commodity. So the IOCs are readily available, usually online. But sometimes there are occasions where you just want to poke at it. That's just like extra credit work where I work at. That's usually just like, hey, let's rip it apart. Let's see what else that we can find. So there's not really any business as usual practices because, again, it's a little outside of our expertise or our like day-to-day descriptions. And that's honestly not my specialty. So he digs into it. He tells me what IOCs I need to go scope for. If he finds anything cool, he shares it with us. And, it's a learning opportunity there. And I will say too that you got to stay curious. You can't be afraid to ask questions because obviously there's things that I don't know and that are his specialty. And likewise, there's things that he doesn't know that are my specialty. And so you have to be okay with asking questions. Being like, hey, how did you find that? Hey, what tool did you use? Man, he just told me to download this one tool because it's what he ripped apart this PDF with and was able to, show me how he pulled out this JavaScript in it. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
And actually, you mentioned some tools, so I want to ask, do you have your favorite tools, technical stack that it's like your weapon of preference?
Okay. A favorite tool. I would say my go-to that I'm in daily is probably I like to go to Endpoint. So I just feel like Endpoint is usually just more malleable to things that I can navigate to. But if we're talking about like specific tools, online, I'm using the standard day-to-day, like, Virus Total, Browser Link, IP Info, Google Dorks. I use Twitter a lot for a lot of my intel to see if other people are experiencing the same thing, if there's, weird hits on this domain. Yeah, I'm not using anything too special as an analyst. A lot of timeline analysis and just basic OSINT, I would think.
Okay, thank you. And do you think a college degree or certification is necessary to become a cybersecurity professional or a threat hunter?
I think it helps. But no, I can sit here and tell you, I don't have my bachelor's degree. I didn't have any of my certifications. So when I entered as a phishing analyst, I had my AZ 900, which is like the basic Azure cloud cert. And then I had my certified cloud practitioner from AWS. So those are the two certs I entered a phishing analyst as. And it wasn't until much later that I got my security plus, that I got my pen test plus. And right now I'm still going through the coursework for the PJPT from TCM, the Practical Junior Penetration Tester. And my job doesn't require it. These are things that I'm doing for my own growth, for my own maturity, to help my own reputation, you know. So no, you don't need those things. Does it make it easier? Sure. But also, I think there's so many amazing people in this field, that any way that you can make yourself stand out, obviously lean into. But I don't necessarily think a cert or a degree is gonna guarantee you that job, unfortunately, anymore.
Yeah, that's actually what I noticed. You have to become as I know cybersecurity influencer to be even noticed now. So it's like really, it's strange. So yeah, and very good advice that you should stand out because everyone is like looks amazing. There are like a lot of people that look the same. They have the same certifications. They have the same skills. So if you can make something that uh, can make you stand out, like make you special, then I would say do it. And yeah, there's a question in the chat, and I actually never thought to ask that question, but it's like really good. Do you have recommendation of people to follow in cyber, like your favorite people on LinkedIn or whenever, wherever?
Oh man, I don't know. I follow a lot of people. Oh gosh, now that I'm put on the spot, like I'm not going to be able to name anybody. Oh man.
It's okay.
No, but I do think it's important to follow people on various social media. So from X, from LinkedIn, from even Instagram and TikTok, you can find cybersecurity people. And I kind of like to sprinkle. Well, I guess my X account normally is just it's mainly either anime people or it's security people. But I do think it's important to kind of sprinkle it throughout your life, because you have different people on different platforms, and sometimes you have the same person on all four platforms. I'm trying to think. So a big YouTuber that I watched in my early days was Simply Cyber. The person who runs that, his name is Gerald Auger, and he does a morning news cycle. I think that's really great because it's short, it's concise, and it also has a pretty active community. And so that allows you to interact with other individuals, start to build your network from the ground up. And you don't have to be in everybody's community, but just plug into one or two, and start to get to know those people. Usually the same people show up, and then they start to share resources and they share tips, and slowly but surely, that's how you kind of, especially if you don't know anybody, that's how you start to build ground level network connections, easy in cybersecurity. And then slowly you're sending out a connect request to more and more people. So I think Gerald Auger is a good one to follow. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else, which is like terrible.
It's okay. It's okay. And we have also a question in the chat. Security people with anime picture, like the profile. So that
Yeah.
makes sense. So, but you mentioned anime before, and I didn't. Yeah, I just wrote the question. It fell out of my head, actually. So, what is your favorite anime, and what was the one that you watched recently? If you can share that.
Yeah. So, in fact, yesterday, actually, I've been watching two. So my husband really likes Dragon Ball, so we've been rewatching Dragon Ball Super. So that's a good like kind of filler anime that I can have on in the background. That's like funny to have. But another one we were rewatching just recently was Psycho Pass. But both of those animes aren't really like in my genre. My favorite kind of anime genre, and this is so overplayed, is but I love it still. It's when people get transported to a different world. I love those animes. I think there was one that it was just on Crunchyroll, and it was like I got transported to another world, even though like I work in quality assurance. And it's so nerdy. This guy, he's trying to find bugs in the computer game, and he got trapped in the game. And so now he's trying to escape because he's locked in, obviously. He's like interacting with NPCs and other debuggers that are stuck in the game with him. But that overall, that genre of getting transported into another world, that's my favorite genre.
Okay,
Um,
what is the title of that anime? Because I was a I was a tester before. I was hunting bugs. So
oh, I'll have to find it and send it to you. It's like a super long title,
oh
but it's
yeah,
something.
okay, no worries. You can send it in the
Yeah,
message. Yes, sure.
yeah. But it's really I love that genre of, I don't know. It's just like, I think it's the fantasy of getting transported to another world and then like getting these cool powers or whatever. They're usually cheesy animes, but that's
I
my
like cheese. I like cheese.
yeah.
So actually, there was the last one that I really enjoyed. Actually, there's few of them, but that one really sticked with me because I'm a foodie, and it's Dungeon Meshi is from Netflix, and they are like
Yes.
they go into dungeons and they are hungry, so they start
Mhm.
eating. Yeah, I will not maybe spoil too much, but I love it, and like the music is fun when they are like cooking. So it's and I really love watching cooking show like Gordon Ramsay or whatever to just
Mhm.
look at the tasty food. So this anime really yeah, resonated with me. And it's
No.
also like a fantasy story. So, and I'm like a very nerdy person that likes Dungeons and Dragons and yeah, fantasy stories. And I play World of Warcraft when I'm always like a elf a hunter. So it's like all levels that really I found it
Oh.
in that anime. So I'm really happy that I got introduced to it. So yeah, thank you for sharing your favorite one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm running out of questions, so that might be the last one.
Okay.
But maybe there will be some more from the chat. What is your favorite food or dish? Because I think there's a lot of foodies in the chat as well, so they always ask this question. So I just wrote it down to have it
Yeah.
always. So
Okay. My favorite food. So again, you should probably know those by now, but I'm super basic. My favorite food is pizza. I could eat pizza every day, all day, again and again and again. I know that sometimes the rest of my family gets tired of it. I'm a classic girl. I just like pepperoni and cheese. That's super good to me. But I will say, I'm not necessarily a foodie. I just stick to like the classics of what I like, and that's it. But so last year, for the first time, I went to Japan. And I will say that I've never tasted food so good in my entire life. Like everything that you see on the animes, it's like brought to real life, and it's just so tasty, from like, their ramen to even their little sandwiches are so good. I mean, everything is just done with such care and attention. Like when they bring you tea, like the teacup's pretty, the little cakes are pretty. So again, I'm not really a foodie per se, but I will definitely encourage, if you need to go to Japan, because they have a smorgasbord of like perfect looking food, and it's really, really tasty.
yeah, actually, it's long time coming dream of mine. I actually want to go there from when I was like 8 years old. So it's been a while.
Yeah,
So
you'll get
probably it's
it. You
about
taste.
time to do it now or
Yeah,
soonish.
yeah, no, definitely pull the trigger. I think you definitely won't regret it. It was for actually our delayed honeymoon is what we called it, and it was it was a trip of a lifetime. I mean, it was amazing. A lot of really, really, really good food, and I mean, it's not just limited to like sushi. I mean, their burgers are good, and they have good like fried food and chicken and just everything there. The quality is, I mean, from the United States, their quality is just so much different, and like it's next level. Definitely recommend. 10 out of 10. Y'all need to go.
Okay. Packing my bag. I'm ready.
Yes, please
Yeah.
do.
So there was a question: is Occupy the Web good to follow his teachings? It was
Oh, I see that. I'm not quite familiar with that one. I did see a John Hammond one. He's super good. He's super great. I follow him on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. TCM Academy is,
yeah.
all good resources there. Black Hills Information Security. They have some fun streams, and they're really fun people to kind of interact with. One group that I have been starting to follow a lot for their threat intelligence. It's called Group dash IB, and I'm like their findings are really good they're really well detailed. They list IOCs at the end of it. In fact, one article that they just published, or one blog that they just published that was really interesting is over the summer, I kept seeing on, I'm sure you guys did too, on social media, people kept getting their phones stolen when they were going into Europe. And what this group IB helped shut down with Europol is, so I guess these people, they would steal all these phones, and they obviously the end goal was to unlock the phones. And so they use this platform called iServer, and they would send the end user a fake looking thing to be like, hey, we found your phone, can you click on this link and enter your password here, and you can we'll release your phone back to you or whatever. And people did it, and it said it was like 400,000 victims. It was like 1.2 million phones stolen. There's a really great write-up on their website. But all that to say, they're fast becoming one of my favorite companies to follow, just because the articles they're publishing are really detailed, and they're really interesting findings. Another one they just posted was from Group TNT, I think Team TNT. That's a cloud threat group. They just have good findings that you're not seeing all over the place. And also, I do love Red Canary blogs. Those are always kind of interesting, and the threat reports are pretty good. And I mean, I think I'd be remiss not to mention my own company, Wiz, Wiz.io. Definitely check out some of their blogs. They have some fun CTFs that you can do. They recently put out a CTF that's a cloud prompt or an AI prompt, and you're trying to trick the AI to give you a free plane ticket. That one's pretty cool and worth checking out. Our threat researchers are next level and always turning out some pretty fun games.
Yeah, there is a question in the chat. Can CompTIA A Plus help you get junior cyber work? There's a little section where also teaches about cyber threats. I don't. Yeah, from my side, I would say CompTIA A Plus is good to just learn, but maybe I wouldn't necessarily get a certification, but I will go for Security Plus. Definitely get certified with that because I will help you. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with that sentiment. That A plus is a pretty chunky certification, isn't it? I think isn't it broken up into 2 tests, and it's pretty extensive. Of course, if you want to chase that knowledge and go down that path, I don't think you'll regret it.
Yeah.
But is it a foot in the door? I wouldn't say so, because it's such a baseline cert. But it is. I mean, you definitely have my respect if you have your A plus, because that cert is no joke. It's pretty heavy. But yeah, I agree with you. Security Plus is a great one. It doesn't necessarily give you the practical experience needed, but it gives you that overview of what the security field looks like, the different domains, and just kind of gives you the 50-foot view or 50,000-foot view of cybersecurity. So I think Security Plus is a great one. And if you're in the US, you need a Security Plus at least to work for the government.
Yeah, that's really important. And I heard maybe the certified ethical hacker as well is for the government.
Yeah, that one too. That one though is pretty pricey. I think that one's over 1,000 US to get. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that one's kind of pricey to get. That's another thing that you guys want to be mindful of when you are getting those certifications, to make sure you look at the price to actually sit for the test, because some of them will shock you about how much it is, not only to for the coursework or for the book, but to actually sit for the certification can be pricey depending on what cert it is.
Yeah. So there is a question. So what will be good to learn for the junior start? What do you think? Like, what certification would you recommend?
Yeah, I definitely think Security Plus, and then I think probably utilizing one of these platforms, whether it is TCM Academy is a good one. There is INE has several different courses that you can do. There is, I think, Cyber Range it's called. I don't know, but the ones I'm most familiar with is TCM Academy and INE. Those have some courses where you actually get hands-on labs to practice concepts, which I think is really important, especially if you're not in the field or if you're not taking classes. It gives you some of that real world experience that you don't necessarily get from just a book.
Yeah, and there's a question. Is that okay if I ask the question, answer in my own words, and then give
Yeah,
you
yeah.
the stage? So, how can you know what is required to do on a job if you're looking for one and you want to enter cyberspace? So, how I did that was I was just Googling job positions. I wanted to be a penetration tester, for example, and then they have requirements for the job. So I looked through, I don't know, like 50 of them, for example, and there was like a common something that appeared in every one of those. So for example, they wanted this cert or this tool or this skill. So I started like mapping that what do I need from all those job positions that I went through and look on the job portals, and that gave me like a picture. Oh, okay, so I need this certification. I need, for example, a Security Plus, for example, appeared a lot of times. OCP appeared a lot of times. Uh, Certified Ethical Hacker, but I don't really want to go in with that one. But what I did next was I I I saw, for example, Security Plus and ICP. Okay, so then I have those certifications have actually a curriculum, what they will teach you in the course. So I took the curriculum and I started like learning one by one, like what is, for example, web penetration testing, what is, for example, Active Directory, what is this, what is that, and that helped me a lot to get like a yeah the plan, and also would be good idea to just Google what, for example, you want to do. I don't know, a threat hunter job or penetration tester or SOC analyst. So then Google what skills do I need for this position, and then Google will give you a lot of results. You can also ask ChatGPT to give you an answer, and it will give you some pointers as well. Or ask people on LinkedIn, like connect with people that do the job that you actually want and ask them for guidance. I think that would be a good way to go about that. But what do you think, Stacey?
Yeah, no, I think that's all good. Those are all good approaches to trying to figure out like what skills needed. So I think another way you can go about it is follow your favorite companies. So follow the big industry giants. So CrowdStrike, I'm gonna say Wiz, Sentinel One, Red Canary, maybe even Tanium. So follow them and look through their job postings and see what jobs stick out to you as interesting, and then read the requirements for those jobs. And then another way to approach your favorite companies is to, what companies do you shop at a lot? So do you wear a lot of Nike? Like follow Nike and see what security jobs they have. Do you watch Crunchyroll a lot? Well, then check out their jobs if they have any security jobs. Do you watch Netflix a lot? You use Netflix? Look at their security jobs. And this will kind of give you a nice range of, different sectors, because I do think it's important to, different sectors are going to need different things. And also you'll kind of get an idea, because I know like if for NFL jobs they want you in office, and so that's good to know when you're looking for NFL jobs. Netflix likes remote work, and so that's another component. So I definitely think you should follow industry companies and look at their jobs, and then follow your own favorite companies and then look at their security jobs. And you can kind of pull out, one, you can determine what companies you kind of want to work for, and then two, you can also determine what skills are needed to work at that company.
Okay, so now I came out with a question actually. So, because you're like very bubbly, very joyful person, so I wanted to ask you, how do you keep yourself motivated? How do you keep yourself happy?
Yeah, I think that's a kind of a different component here too, because I do love what I do. So my energy and my even my tone of voice is a lot different in cybersecurity world than it is in my social life. Again, I'm pretty reserved. My husband's the outgoing one. He's the one who makes all the friends. I don't really speak unless spoken to. But when it comes to cybersecurity, this is something I just really do love. I'm passionate about it. Um, and there's just so many different opportunities. I think it's really exciting. It's scary because threats are always evolving. But likewise, if threats are evolving, then the need for people like me, the people like you, we're needed. And so I'm doing something that I think is valuable, that I think is improving our society, that I think is needed in the world today. And so I don't know, I just kind of bundle that all up, and I'm doing something meaningful, and just I can't help but be passionate about it. Before I broke into cybersecurity, my current husband, he is a firefighter, and we were just boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, but he would get so irritated because he would go to work and he was so happy. He had like the best time at work. And I'm like, how do people like you even exist? Like, like you're just happy to go, do firefighter stuff. And I wanted that for myself. And luckily I found that. And so now I'm one of those weirdos who gets to be happy about my job and can sit here and talk to you about recent threats and cool articles that I found. And so honestly, I think it's just tapping into what you're passionate about, whether it is programming, whether it is more GRC related, whether it's just tech adjacent, maybe it isn't even cybersecurity. I think you need to give yourself that grace. If you're like doing something and you're like, hey, this is not for me, it's okay to like be like, this is not for me. Let me find something that is. Like we've talked about, life is too short. Try to lean into what you're passionate about and give something a try. If it doesn't work out for you, if you're struggling and be like, this isn't making me happy, okay, well then pivot. Tech is a big space. There's so many different areas and facets, from gaming to UX design, to back-end engineering, to dev work, to security. You have a lot of different areas to play with. So don't limit yourself.
Yeah, but you mentioned something very important, that yeah, if you don't feel happy and life is short, then you should pivot. You should change something. And before you said something really smart, that you wanted to change. You really needed to something different to happen, but then you kept working at the same place. So you decided, yeah, if I want something different, then I need to change where I'm at. So that's actually like, you're a very smart person, and I wanted to say thank you for sharing that. And
Oh.
yeah, another question like from me, because you just mentioned that, and my smile was like so big. So I wanted to ask you, how do uh, how do I meet a firefighter? Because I want to meet a firefighter too. Does he
Yeah.
have friends, like, are single or not?
Yeah, no, I was super blessed and honestly really lucked out. We actually met online. I really wasn't ready for a relationship. I had come out of being divorced. I was still kind of crazy and kind of all over the place. Luckily, he was super patient, and yeah, I did get pretty lucky. But we met online. We met on a dating app. So that's how I found mine.
Okay. Taking notes. Wait. Okay, so I don't think I have any more questions, but I'm really happy that you agreed to join me here. It was really, yeah, it was very dynamic, a bit chaotic at times, because I was coming up with questions on the spot, but just wanted to thank you. And if you have anything to add, or like say about yourself, you maybe have some motivational message that you want to share with people, like you can go ahead and do it now.
Yeah, no, I'll just say I'm super glad that you invited me on. I know we had talked, a couple months ago. We were kind of both in a transitional place, and we had a moment of connection, and I'm really glad. I'm glad we had that moment. I think cybersecurity overall, our industry is really encouraging, and really supportive. And if there is opportunities that like this, where I get to connect, especially with another female, since there aren't, massive amounts of us out there. Yeah, I'm always down for it. I definitely think we need more diversity in this space. But on the flip side, I will say, for the men out there, they have been super inclusive of me, and supportive, and I've learned a lot from them. But overall, I don't know. I just thank you for having me. I followed you for a good bit now. I think we both followed each other's journeys for a
Yeah.
while. And so it's cool to have this face-to-face time to just like hang out and chat. Love it. Always here for it. And yeah, we'll have to do this again super soon.
Yeah, actually, I just thought about that. I should invite you again soon. And yeah, I think we really vibed it here. So I'm really happy that I invited you and that this happened. So yeah, thank you again for coming, and hopefully talk to you soon. We will see,
Yeah.
but hopefully. And I'm really happy because, as you mentioned, there are not so many women in this space, and so I think we are one of the like braver ones that just put everything on one card and said, "Oh, okay, I'm going to do it." Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Charge
don't
ahead.
care. So I'm really happy that you entered the space and like you started sharing. And I'm also like super introverted, so a few people told me, "Oh, I'm really happy that you stepped out of the shadows," when I like started sharing on LinkedIn. So I'm really happy that you did too, because I got to meet you, and yeah, you get to
Yeah.
have this awesome job now. So I'm really happy for you, and yeah, that you found it. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's thank you for me, and that's thank you for my Patreon supporters. See you next week. Bye.